bring in now Jim Banks, Republican congressman from Indiana, in focus now. Member of the House Armed Services Committee and Veterans Affairs Committee as well. Congressman Banks, so important for us to talk today as we await the Pentagon. Your top-line thoughts on what we're learning about what happened at that gate at Kabul airport.
Well, Harris, this is a tragic. I'm heartbroken thinking about the many lives that have been impacted, our service members, the lives of the Afghans who have been helping us over the last 20 years who are trying to get to the airport to potentially get out of a Taliban-run situation in the country. All of this was completely avoidable, and that's what makes me so angry watching these images and hearing about potentially the loss of American lives, of our service members, of the situation going on there. So I'm both heartbroken and angry at the same time. By the way, you're hearing more and more about ISIS-K. ISIS-K is not a new dynamic in Afghanistan. They've been building up there for about over 3 years, waiting for a moment like this, waiting for a president like Joe Biden to create a chaotic situation like what he has to strike. And we saw what's happened over the last couple of hours. We're going to see a lot more of that to come in the days ahead.
You know, Congressman, the way that you put that, because I'm looking at my notes. So for 20 years, we have basically been fighting their militant partners, the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, the Haqqani network. ISIS-K, as you say, is not new. But this is something that was created relatively quickly outside the gates of that airport. When we say militarily that we had control of that, is it your understanding that perhaps we didn't control as much as we thought we did, or the Taliban is not controlling? Because we're supposed to be talking with them, according to President Biden. Have they lost control of their country?
As you already said, I served in Afghanistan in 2014 and 15. I went back as a member of Congress in late 2018, and General Scotty Miller, who was the most recent general on the ground, was there at that time as well, and he briefed us on the threat of ISIS-K, because, Harris, as President Trump defeated the ISIS caliphate in Syria and Iraq, ISIS-K started to drift toward Kabul. They saw it as a target-rich, high-profile environment, and I believe that they were just waiting for a moment. They were waiting us out, waiting for a moment like this where they could strike, and that's exactly what you're seeing. But what's important to always remember in this situation, why I'm so critical of this commander-in-chief, is because, and why it was so avoidable. If we would have kept a small footprint of special operations, counterterrorism-focused troops in Afghanistan through all of this, and if we would have kept the Bagram airfield open rather than rely on the very inefficient Kabul public airport, where you're seeing the images of, this situation could have unfolded a whole lot more effectively and in a much better way than what it has. So we'll get back to asking those questions later. In the meantime, we've got to get all of these Americans out of the country, and I don't have the confidence that this administration is able to do that.
So Congressman, just real quickly, because I mean, you can talk tactics with us now and with some specificity, because every American is wondering, if we were there, what would we be doing? We're getting mixed messages on the ground. We're being told to get to the airport. We're being told the airport's too dangerous to get to. So you know that you have people in other parts of the country that can't get there now. If we pull up stakes, do we have to go back in with a bigger force? Are we technically entering back into the war? I mean, how do you see it?
Harris, the attorney or the Secretary of State told us that there are 6,000 more Americans who are trying to get out of the country, and now we're pulling up out of the airport that we told them to go to get them out of the country. That tells us that at least, we believe that there are more, but at least 6,000 Americans are stuck behind enemy lines. So I don't know how we can leave them behind. We need to do everything possible to get them out of the country safely. And this administration has proven over the last week that they are incapable of leading an operation to get that done. But all of this could have been avoided if we would have kept Bagram open. I mean, perhaps we need to go back in and seize the Bagram airfield and get Americans out in a different place. We're going to have to do something different than rely on this airport.
So, Congressman, let's talk about that. I want to know what lay ahead. I know where we've been, and you're right. We can navel gaze and investigate and do all of that after this is over. We got to get our people out now. And at least 600 troops have left. You know that if you have to leave by August 31st, you're packing up today. I mean, you got to get everybody up, including our troops. So the movement now isn't necessarily just on getting people out who are citizens and Afghans who helped us. It's now getting our troops out. And now that we know that 3 Marines have been hurt, there are some people who really want to do some harm. I mean, you know that land. How do we get out? Basically, they've created a kill zone. One way in and one way out. And our people are sitting there. Strategically, what do you do?
Yeah, you got to find a different option. You can't rely on the Kabul airport. You've got to have a military base of some sort. It's got to be. I mean, Bagram, the airfield, the base there, it's more. You can more easily defend it and get more. It's got multiple airstrips. You can get more aircraft in and out of it. I mean, that's where you have to start. But we are the United States of America. We have the most powerful military in the world, Harris, and we cannot afford to leave any American behind who is trying to get out of the country behind enemy lines.
Please, and please forgive me. I just have so many questions, and I'm asking them, because it moves us forward. And Congressman, you're so patient to let me cut in and out. But look, are you telling me that then the next offensive, because this is an offensive now, we got to go take another airport, potentially one that's ours. Are we confident that nobody's squatting at Bagram at this point? Because that's worth fighting for. We can't renegotiate or go back and figure out why we didn't open it. If you're telling me you need something like a military nut you can protect and get airlines off the ground, get airplanes off the ground, do we retake Bagram? I mean, would you put that in the cards?
I would. I mean, I don't know if that airfield or a different one is what's necessary. I can't speak on behalf of these military generals and the Pentagon. Harris, they've so poorly handled this over the last month that they put us in this situation. They are to blame for what's going on. But right now, it's not about blame. It's about how do we get over 6,000 Americans out of the country safely and immediately. And to do that, it's going to take a lot more force there on the ground than what we have. We can't afford to pull up stakes and leave. We've got to do everything we can to get every American out of the country safely, and that's going to mean more American military power in the region to get that done. And it's Joe Biden's fault and his Pentagon, his team's fault for causing this situation. But that's a conversation for tomorrow. Today, it's about doing everything we can to get every American out safely.
On the committees that you serve and lead, what can you tell us about what we know could be next on the ground with our people in peril at this point?
Yeah, we on the Armed Services Committee, we've had several briefings from the Biden team. I can tell you a lot of these briefings are classified. And I can tell you, I've said it over the last couple of days, when you sit through these classified, closed-door hearings and meetings with the Biden team, they say something that is very different than what you hear come out of the mouth of the commander-in-chief on Pennsylvania Avenue. I wish every American could hear the Biden team talk about knowingly the mistakes that have been made, the difficulty, the dangerous situation there, the threat streams that show how dangerous of a situation that is going on there. And then you have the President of the United States telling the American people that everything is under control. He told us just 1 week ago, Harris, the President of the United States told us that there was not a serious threat in Afghanistan. And it's just unfathomable to think that was 1 week ago, that al-Qaeda is not a threat. There's not an ongoing serious threat in Afghanistan. And then you see what's happened over the last couple of hours. You realize this president was either lying to us all along, or he's not in direct contact with the team that he leads, the leaders at the Pentagon, the Secretary of State. They're saying
both
two completely
bad scenarios.
Different things.
Yeah, but neither of them good for the American people or the Americans and the Afghans who helped us on the ground in Afghanistan. Congressman Jim Banks, with us this hour. Appreciate your expertise and being able to tell us such detail because you've served there, you've been there since. Thank you.
Thank you.